Hello tiny painters, let's relax and paint. Today's painting is inspired by tiger's eye stones and pyrite, which is fool's gold. So my idea here is to start light with the sky, and this is sort of going to be a sunset landscape, and I want it to be a little darker on one side and lighter on the other because that will be where the light is coming from. I wasn't sure what I wanted to paint tonight, but then when I started organizing the little rocks tonight, I was like, oh, I could actually paint rocks. So that's what we decided to do. We as in my head. And so I just studied where the lights and shadows were a little bit and just tried to remember what rocks look like, or, you know, kind of look at the rocks that I had right in front of me there. And of course I've got a little blob that I dropped on here, so I took some water and tried to sop it up as best I could, and then maybe try to cover it, and it was still a little there, but I'll worry about that later. So back to the rocks, I always start light and work darker. This is especially important with watercolors because it's hard to get back to a light once you have covered it with dark. So leaving those spots of white on the stones was really important to keep the highlights. And I just went through and kept adding more and more shadow until it had the depth that I wanted it to have. Of course, adding the little shadow in front gives it a little more dimension and shows where the light's coming from, which is the sun behind it a bit. And adding grass to make it really feel like an actual little landscape. And then the little spot in the corner at the top in the sky was bothering me, so I decided to put a couple little birds up there, like they're flying around. And now we have a finished little tiny portrait of some rocks. I hope you have enjoyed seeing the process of this, and we'll see you next time. Hello tiny painters, let's relax and paint. Today we're inspired by rose quartz and my pink stones. So I was thinking of this color when I was eating some watermelon. So let's make some watermelon slices today. First I make the triangles and then I drop in a little bit more red into the pink. Then I went through and made green lines for the rind. Then it's time to go through and make them a little bit 3D looking on the edge. And then the magic part that actually is going to make them watermelon, which is making the seeds. Once they have their little seeds, they're so cute. Then, since I still had white space between each of them, I decided to add little seeds in between them. I know it kind of actually looks like little bugs, but it's okay. They're seeds. They're seeds, watermelon seeds. Hope you liked this painting today. See you next time. Hello tiny painters, let's relax and paint. Today I picked red agate as my inspiration, so I wanted to go with reds and pinks, and really it's inspired by today being my anniversary with my husband. So what goes with that? Hearts. My idea here today is to make a series of hearts that will be layered to make a fun pattern. And so I started with some pink, try to make it light and get the edges a little bit crisp. I like this method with dropping color into the water because it's really fun to see how it works out. I dried the hearts to keep them light so that as the pattern progressed, I could get darker and darker. And here again, I made a little bit smaller hearts. These are made with less water, so they are more saturated. And the smaller the hearts, the more I can add to them. So I tapped with the paper towel again to make them lighter, because like I said, we're gonna layer even more. So I'm just gonna keep going. Okay, so I've switched from pink to red. So one little trick with making hearts like this when you have a paintbrush is you can basically make kind of a V and then just sort of round out the tops to make them look like a heart. Sometimes with other paintbrushes it's a little easier, but with our little teeny tiny brush, we're making it work. And like I said, the smaller we're making them, the more we can put on the paper. Then again, we're continuing the process. So when I'm finished with the red hearts, I go and dry them again, and it's starting to look like little stamps, and it's really cute. Now we're gonna go back with the pink and make even smaller little hearts. And like I mentioned, it's less water and thicker paint, so it's easier to keep the shape when they're so small. So I'm continuing to make more and more little hearts and add to the pattern with the pink. Then we're gonna go back with red and make a few more red hearts. It's really looking more like a Valentine than anything else, but I'll take that. Wouldn't it be nice if hearts were just part of like all the different holidays? I love hearts, I love love. I am enjoying how this little pattern is turning out. I love that I did start with the larger hearts and then got smaller and smaller, filling them in randomly. They turned out pretty cute. This was definitely not a masterpiece, but it was helpful for me to learn a new technique. Hope you enjoyed it. Hello tiny painters, let's relax and paint. Today's painting is inspired by Tiger's Eye. As I looked at the colors of these stones, I thought it would be nice to paint a cat. So first we start with wet on wet to get just the colors all kind of merged together with a little bit of black and brown. Then made 2 ears on the top. With the drier paint, you want to make sure that those get crisp lines. Then I continued adding more brown and edges that start making it look like the hairy edges of the cat. And the shape of the cat is coming together now. So, of course, it's time to make some eyes. I start with the green on the outside and then put the black line through the middles. And I move on to the nose area for a bit. Making a cat nose is always a little tricky, so I'm glad this one is starting to turn out. Then I went back to the eyes and added some eyeliner. Basically, it actually helps make the eyes stand out and look right. Then of course the whiskers and all the other little details, like a little white dot to catch the eyes. And then I go around with the black just to give a little detail. And here is our cute little ginger kitty. This was definitely a fun painting to make, and I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today I'm inspired by moss agate and green aventurine. These colors remind me of a tropical beach, so I wanted to go in with some aqua color. We start with just a water wash, and then I drop in some color lightly, and then I go darker out toward the edges. You want to create contrast, so I leave a white bright spot in the middle and then keep adding dark to the outside. Then I realized I wanted a little more teal color. Then I wet the spot that I want to keep bright, and I dabbed it away with a paper towel. So now it looks like you're in the water looking up at the bright sun. And we're going to force the perspective here with the silhouette of fish. They don't have to be perfect this way, as long as you can kind of tell that they're fish shapes. And I just make them smaller and smaller toward the end. And since I'm trying to stay simple, I think I'm done. I love how it really does look like the fish underwater, and it made such a cute little painting. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today I'm inspired by the color yellow and the stones of citrine and selenite. And since it's starting to smell like crisp leaves outside and fall, I thought I would take the color yellow and make some leaves. I started with these simple teardrop shapes. Then I add a little brown to the yellow and make branches that go between them and connect some of them together to give the illusion that they are hanging from a tree. Then once we have all of the tree branches, then I go in with a little bit darker than each color for the lines to create the little veins on the leaves. So a little darker orange and a little darker yellow. And then we have our tree branches with the leaves. I hope you enjoyed this fall leaf tutorial. See you next time. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today I'm inspired by aquamarine, along with pink, purple, and teal crystals. Since it was starting to feel like fall lately, it reminded me of plaid shirts, so I thought maybe it'd be fun to make a plaid pattern. So I went through with each color and made stripes. I started out with horizontal stripes and then went back through with vertical stripes. Then I continued with each color, filling in more and more space until all of the lines are covering each other. It is neat to see what kind of happens with different colors overlapping, but you have to be careful not to combine two different colors that are still wet. Otherwise it'll get a little bit muddy, which kind of happened in a few spots here, but that's okay. We're just playing. Once I added the black lines, it really helped make it pop. And now it looks like a plaid material. Really enjoyed seeing how these colors came together. And I hope you join me next time. Tonight I'm trying something a little different. We are inspired by Amazonite, and I decided to do something abstract. Just play with the colors and put something down. Really inspired by this aqua and teal color and some blues. Decided to put some circles, and I left that one white dot because I wanted something to be a little bit of a focal point, so that's why it's still white. Then just adding some more colors to make the circles pop. It's starting to come together with the colors, and so I thought, maybe I'll add some lines. I really haven't done much with stripes, so I thought this would be fun to play with. And it turned out pretty good. It's pretty cute. Then I realized, it kind of looks familiar. Actually, it may have been inspired by Mike Wazowski and Sully from the Monsters, Inc. This was a fun exercise, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today, I'm inspired by the color yellow and the stones of citrine and selenite. And since it's starting to smell like crisp leaves outside and fall, I thought I would take the color yellow and make some leaves. I started with these simple teardrop shapes. Then I add a little brown to the yellow and make branches that go between them and connect some of them together to give the illusion that they are hanging from a tree. Then once we have all of the tree branches, then I go in with a little bit darker than each color for the lines to create the little veins on the leaves. So a little darker orange and a little darker yellow. And then we have our tree branches with the leaves. I hope you enjoyed this fall leaf tutorial. See you next time. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today's art is inspired by emerald and green aventurine. So I was in the mood for green and peaceful. So I was thinking maybe I would do some leaves. So I started out with a lighter green color and I'm going to work my way to darker. I've been thinking about sort of layering watercolors, starting lighter and then going darker. So I thought I would try this technique tonight. So every leaf that I put on the next one is just a little bit darker. And I'm spreading them kind of coming from each of the different corners. And hopefully it's all going to come together and look really neat. We'll see. I didn't really go into this one with much of a plan, so we're definitely winging it. And it took me a minute to realize, oh, where do I want to start? And we started from that corner and kind of coming down into the painting instead of from the bottom. So kind of coming from the different corners. And as you can see, that was a darker green. And so then I realized I really want to darken up my next green. So I add a little brown to kind of mute it down. And we have this darker leaf to go on top. So here's the part where I realize, okay, I think I may have layered enough for such a small space. So this will be the last leaf that I make. And then since there was a little bit of white, I filled in some of that negative space with just a little pop of yellow and green. And now it's funny to me because I feel like it looks like corn stalks or something. So I went back in and I decided to go ahead and give them an outline. And it would really make the top leaf pop once it had the other leaves sort of outlined. And I think this turned out pretty good. If I were to do this a little bit differently next time, I would probably make smaller leaves and more of a print. But I'm happy with this, and it's pretty because it's green, and green is beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today I'm inspired by the bloodstone. It's really cool because it is teal and red. I love this color combination because it's more unique than a lot of other combinations. You don't think about red with teal. So I start with a wash of the background with the teal and letting it dry. Then I'm going in with the red, and I decided tonight to make flowers. And what is a really good red flower? A poppy, of course. So I took the red and made just 2 of the flower shapes. The background was not quite dry by the time I got the red on there, so you see it starts to bleed. And so I needed to go back and kind of dry that up a little and re-attempt to get those lines a little more defined. And then, of course, I added the stems and going back and making the red just a little darker. Then I realized I wanted to add a little more of the teal and kind of make it kind of cloudy around them, so almost like it's the sky. So I watered down that teal a little bit more and add some just to make the flowers pop. I just really love how this is actually coming together. And now you can actually see the poppy. Once the black is there, you can really tell that it is a poppy flower. And we let it dry a little bit, and it's pretty much done. I was really trying to keep this one simple and straightforward, and I think it was pretty much a success. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed watching one more tiny painting with me. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. It's been beautiful outside and I've been inspired by nature. So today let's go with green aventurine. I am trying to practice being simple. So today we're going to make a tree branch. So I'm starting out with brown, and you just make one big line and then some other squiggly lines off of it. Once you have that base start, I start with the lighter green first, and we're going to make like the new buds are a little smaller and just at the ends. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit darker green, a regular color green, to kind of have the middle leaves that are middle of their growth. And then I'm going to go in with darker green. And the darker greens you want to be closer to where the brown is of the stems, to really give that dimension of the different sizes of the leaves and their colors. I wasn't quite loving this yet, so then I decided to darken up some brown and add some texture to the tree bark, and then that is what really set this off. So I just outlined where you can see the brown a little bit, not going all the way with the black around it, just on some edges, and going through with a little bit of details and adding a little extra punch. Now it's at a point where I'm happy with it, and then I realized, oh, if I turn it upside down, oh well, cool, it actually looks like a tree from below looking up at a tree. So that was a really nice little surprise. I hope you enjoyed today's painting, and we'll see you next time. Hello, tiny painters. Let's relax and paint. Today's inspiration is citrine. I love golds and yellows and oranges, so I was really thinking about light and dark, and so that got me thinking about different types of light and where light can come from and silhouettes. So I had to start with where the brightest part is and make it go to a darkness on the outside. So the plan in my head when this got started was it would be a very light part going to a dark part. So there will be a light, literally, that I will be drawing later. But I have to get the darkness just right, just to kind of really show the contrast. And this is one of the points where it's like, okay, you got to trust the process. I think I know where I'm going with this. Really darken the edges a little bit more and kind of bring it together. Layering to get darkness is always better than being too dark to begin with. Now it's time for the fun part, which is, I don't know if you can guess yet, but this is going to be a lantern, or more like an old-fashioned street light. But after I drew it out here, I started to realize I probably should have looked one up to get a better idea of the shape before doing it. So I kind of had to redo a little bit of the inside because I had too much black at the bottom, and I was like, this does not look right. So then we just took some away, added a little yellow back into it. So as that part is starting to dry, I go ahead and put some polka dots because I love adding polka dots. And it just makes it look more like little flies or fireflies at nighttime. Then, now that it's dry, I can go back with the black and try to get that to look a little more like a street light. This is definitely one that I would try again and probably practice my street light before painting it, but I like it. It turned out pretty nice. And I did learn some new things painting this, so that's always my goal, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.